Welcome back to WRPL. It's the podcast where we talk about all the things we were watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
How's it going, Steve?
I'm doing well, Benjamin. How are you?
I'm good. Any big news or deaths happened in this past week? Can you think of anything topical to bring something to the table?
NSYNC came out with a new song.
Okay,
this is
movie. Now 2 weeks without NSYNC. I was going to make fun of you in a little bit, but like listening back to last episode, you recommended a fucking song. One song, not an album.
Yeah.
An old-ass song. I need you to do better than that.
I don't recommend their new song. It's not very good.
Well, and it's for trolls?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even realize a new Troll movie was coming out.
Yeah, World Tour, man. What was this?
Wasn't... Oh, no. What was the last one?
I've never seen a troll movie.
I thought World Tour was the second one, but...
Oh, maybe?
They didn't...
Oh, maybe it isn't. Trolls Bloodline.
Oh. Fury Road.
Anyway. But a little bit of news, a little bit of death.
Okay.
Michael Gambon died.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't mean as much to me as for other people. I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I mean, I looked at his IMDb and went, oh, he was in that? Oh, he was in that? Oh, I didn't realize he was in all these things, because when I think of that actor, I just see him as Dumbledore.
Yeah.
So, R.I.P., but he was like 91 or something. So
He had a good run.
Yeah, he's good. But also, good news, the writer strike is finally over. And we don't have all the details. I'm sure they're coming soon, but pay the fucking people that make you rich. Isn't that hard? It's a small percentage of what you're making. Stop being fucking dicks. We pay all of our writers, which is us, and we don't make anything, so we pay zero. So we're on the up and up.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's roll and get this episode started. We are going to be talking about The Creator, the latest, I don't want to call it an indie thing, but it's the sleeper non-property movie of the summer. It's not based off anything. It's a completely original idea.
An original film, yes.
So we're going to be talking about that, a couple other stuff. Let's roll. Jesus fucking Christ. I can't win.
I need you to play D&D with me, Ben. I need to see people roll. Because most of the time my players roll, they always roll pretty well, or at least they have enough stats to take their medium rolls and make them good. But I love people who constantly suck. It makes it more fun.
I mean, I guess with my goblin character.
15.
15? Okay. We're above average, though. As long as we're over 15, then it's a good episode or something. I still don't know why we do this. All right, so I got a couple of things. You got a few things. I'll do a quick one. Do you remember a comic called Gen 13?
I do not.
All right. It was back in 93 when it came out. It was written by Jim Lee and drawn by J. Scott Campbell. It's weird. I should have been a bigger fan of this because I was 12 at the time, and I was obsessed with the art. And ever since, I've loved J. Scott Campbell. He knows how to draw a lady who has incredibly long legs, an impossible waist, and just enormous comic boobs and eyes. His art is so ridiculous, but it is very nice to look at. He's a beautiful artist. And Jim Lee, who's written for Batman and X-Men, and he's been around forever. This was a Image comic, and I did read some Image like Darkness and Witchblade. And then, a lot of those series have either been, absorbed into DC now. Wildstorm is part of DC. They don't use everything, but they use what they want. At, Invincible, Savage Dragon, those are Image comics. Okay. So, it's still around. It's just not what it used to be. But anywho, Gen 13 was the 90s X-Men. They were going to call it, Generation X or Gen X, but Marvel already kind of had that. So it was Gen 13, and it's a pretty basic story of government testing on troops, and they become super soldiers, and then things go awry, and the children of these people are now being recruited as being the next generation. That was Gen 12, this is Gen 13, and they all have some special power. The lead is Morgan Fairchild.
Ben stepping in here. I said Morgan Fairchild. I meant Caitlin Fairchild. But my brain can't retain information. as you will hear in this episode and pretty much every episode.
And I think this, along with The Little Mermaid, made me like redheads. She was this little nebbish nerd, going to school and is just an uber dork. But then when her powers manifest, she turns into She-Hulk, turns 7 feet tall, super buff, rips out of her clothes, boobs a poppin'. It was just one of those comic books that was, for my teenage brain, the best thing in the world. And there's just a team of like 3 sexy ladies, 2 dudes, and it's very Generation X, and one of the characters' name is Grunge. So, like,
of course.
Anywho, I didn't collect.
What was Grunge's power?
He could like touch metal, and then he'd become metal, and so he'd just be strong. He would look like Colossus, but he could touch a rock, and then he'd turn into rock. He's kind of like Mondo from Generation X. That probably doesn't mean anything to you, but that was his power. He would touch wood and turn into wood.
Kind of like Darwin in the
yeah, but not at all.
class.
I think it's more of a substance. If he touched water, he would turn water. I'm not 100% because, like I said, I didn't really read them. I just Googled the booby pictures. So anywho, they made a movie, an animated movie, back in like 98, 99. Totally slipped my radar. Didn't know that this came out, and it's on YouTube. So I watched it, and it's not great. It's got a little bit of...
how's the quality on YouTube?
Well, I watched one that said it had an AI advanced voice editing thing, because I guess this never got released in America because it was owned by Disney. Disney had the rights to it, but then they realized, oh, this is promoting a DC thing that after they bought this was sold to Warner Brothers. And they're like, we're not going to promote another company's comic line. So they just kind of shelved it. It got like a limited release in Australia, but that's about it. So all the YouTube versions are just rips. And so this one I listened to, I guess the main rip that was the best like visual quality had like annoying audio problems, like poppings and screeches and stuff. So someone has gone through it with the help of a computer and kind of minimized that. It sounded a little echoey, but it's fine. The main Caitlin Fairchild is voiced by, what's her name? Alicia Witt, another redhead. Mark Hamill's in this as one of the dudes. Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers is Grunge.
It's weird how much work Flea has gotten.
Yeah, he was in the Wild Thornberries. He was in Back to the Future 2.
Yeah,
he's working.
Yeah,
and
I mean, just it's one of those guys who shows up occasionally. I'm just like, oh yeah, I forgot about Flea.
Person, yeah. And then one of the other like standout main characters, her name was Freefall or something. I think she has like psychic powers and whatever. She was voiced by Elizabeth Daily, who does like Buttercup on Powerpuff Girls. She just has a very identifiable voice. She was in Pee-wee's Big Adventure as like the girl who was in love with Pee-wee Herman. And you just hear it and go, oh, that's Buttercup. I hear that. And then just, a couple other random voice actors, Cloris Leachman and Corey Burton and stuff like that. It looks a little Batman the Animated Series, but, a bit hornier. And Batman the Animated Series had its moments where they snuck it in. This wanted to be a lot hornier. This wanted to have a lot more violence. There is some blood. You could tell they wanted nudity. And there is kind of like nippleless nudity. Like when she rips out of her clothes, they have to make sure that her boobs like pop out to the screen. And it looks like you see everything, but she just doesn't have any nipples. It's like they wanted to go R, and Disney said, you could do PG-13 light. Yeah. I can't recommend it. I don't really recommend the comics. It was just like a fun thing from my childhood that I got to experience later in life. I think it could probably work now. They would have to kind of change some of the aesthetics. Like they have a Native American woman on the team, and her name's Rainmaker. I don't know if that would fly.
Just because she... Never mind. Cut that. I was going to say it had nothing to do with it. It was just, she's just good at making money. But then I was like, but that's a casino thing.
Sure, or a strip club thing, like making it rain. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, it's like I assume they called her Rainmaker because she would do a dance or something and like summon water.
Yeah, but
I was just saying like, oh no, she's just good at cash flow. That was gonna be my joke.
But
it's like
that term didn't exist in the 90s.
I know that. I was trying to save it with a joke, but I think the joke is just like, well, you're just talking about casinos. It's like, that's also
really bad. Yeah.
Either way, it's bad.
So yeah, Gen 13. It's on YouTube if you care. But really, just Google it and look at the cover art. It's fantastic. J. Scott Campbell. Everything he does is amazing.
All right.
What do you got?
I'll just say real quick. I played a game of fantasy football this week.
Okay. How'd you do?
I think technically the last games are tomorrow, but it's pretty much clinched that I have won again. So I am 4-0 out of 14 weeks before we go to playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah, for someone who doesn't know pretty much anything about football and is just kind of following what Google says on what to do,
Yeah.
and I did very minimal research, but it's been a lot of fun. It's nice that I'm beating all my sport friends who know this shit.
But isn't that kind of the thing of when you're making these sort of fantasy footballs rosters, that random is just as you have just as great of a chance of winning with random than if you were to do hyper research on these things?
I mean, it's not like we all just because there is auto draft where it'll just choose what the system thinks would be the best player for you, but none of us did that. We all actually chose our players, but I mean, if someone doesn't know anything and they just there's things to it, but I think me not knowing too much about the players has helped, and just kind of because there are stats and this player is projected to make 22 points this week, and so you're like, oh, I think I'll play that guy because he's projecting to do 22. He'll even if he doesn't half of that, we'll get something. But then he might score 2 points, and you're just fuck. I should have played the guy who, you know, was projected at 8 points, but actually made 30. But
that's the same. You go to horse races and oh, purple nurple, that's funny. I'm not betting on that, and you bet on something else. Then purple nurple wins. Oh, I should have trusted my gut. Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah, there are people who could definitely explain it way better than I am. But you also
no, I think you're a pro.
It depends. It depends on the matchup because this team's defense is really good. So the team that they're playing probably going to score many points. So if you have players on that other team, it's well. I don't want to play those guys because I know they're going to have a hard time scoring. So you play other people who maybe are lesser players, but maybe the game's easier. But it's all mumbo jumbo that I don't really care about. Luckily, this isn't for any money. I think my winning streak will come to an end after next week.
Okay.
It could happen this week, but of our 6-team league, 2 of the guys have. Since I beat them both, I played them first, and I think I just got lucky playing them first because whatever happened, I think through waiver wire and picking up players and dropping players and whatever, they've accumulated a very good team, and because I keep winning, I don't really get much in the way of the waiver wire in terms of picking up players, so now their teams keep scoring very high every week, and I've just been playing the people who kind of suck. So it's going to be a battle for first place, but as of right now, I'm the only person who's undefeated.
That's awesome.
So it feels very good to win at things, especially when you know nothing about it. So I see why people love to gamble. I still won't on this.
But if you do win and you go all the way, you need to rub it in their face at all times.
I'll never let them live it down. And it has been fun to trash talk your friends a little bit. I try and be especially because when you're at the top, you don't want to shit on people too hard.
You punch up, don't punch down.
Yeah. So because there's no one to really punch up to me, I just go I'm coming for you this week, buddy. Watch out. And they're like,
very civil.
Yeah, and shake their fist, and then afterwards I'm like, that was a good game. Or I was just like, man, you guys suck. But
you're a better man than me, Steve. I would just rub it in their face any chance I get.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's one thing I did.
Okay, I didn't know if this story was getting something and it turns out
no, it's just an update for the people who really want to know about my fantasy football.
Yeah, Steve, the man who does not have the time for pretty much anything. We're pretty much only getting updates from you. One main topic and some updates, and I'm assuming we're getting some Baldur's Gate updates.
I got that Baldur's Gate update for you. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I watched another thing that has the word Gen in it. I started Gen V.
I assumed you would this week. Yeah.
And they're not doing a great job of advertising it because it came out Friday, and I barely saw ads for it. I just happened to kind of click in my head oh yeah, that's coming soon. And it happened to be Thursday night after I got home from work, and Wait till
Yeah,
midnight.
I don't think I've seen commercials or anything for it, or normal ads. It'll just be I'll be scrolling YouTube or something, and it'll be a motionless just picture that just says Gen V Friday or whatever. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And
because
so
it's not a video, I just scroll right past it.
And you didn't start it at all?
No, I don't care.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
You like The Boys, though.
I like The Boys. I have no
then
interest.
You would like this. It's just more of The Boys. It's just as funny. It's just as gross. It's just as violent. But we're not dealing with the world of Vought and the industry of superheroes. You get to just, I mean, it's there for sure, but it's more of the interpersonal stuff because these people aren't superheroes yet. They're just people with powers. And the nice thing about this is there's like a negative to everyone's power. You know, Homelander doesn't have any weaknesses. Translucents rarely, except for, bomb up the butt.
Sure.
But most of them just have a power and that's it. And their weaknesses are very reflective of the times. And at first it was a little more subtle than in the third episode. They just kind of overtly say it. So like our lead, she can control blood, but she has to cut herself in order to get that blood out to use it as a weapon. So she's kind of like a cutter. You have someone who can shrink down in size, but she can't do it at will. She has to make herself throw up. And every time she throws up, she gets a little smaller. And then to get big, she has to eat. So it's this binge, purge, bulimia, anorexia sort of idea. Guy named Golden Boy. Every time he turns on his power, all of his clothes come off. So he's exposing himself to everybody every time he uses his powers. Not everybody has that. There is a guy who, like, pretty much he touches.
Wait, so does he just turn to gold? Is that his
no?
power?
He's a fire guy. He's like completely on fire. I thought in the ads they showed a guy shooting lasers that were golden, and I thought that was him. But no, he's just super, super strong, and he can fly, and he has fire powers.
Oh, okay.
And there's a guy that can like touch metal and then he's strong as metal. And then someone who can touch you and just make a suggestion. Like she wants to get into the bar. Oh, we're full. She touches it with her hands and says, we're 21. You can fuck off now. And he goes, okie dokie, turns around and goes and fucks off. And that character is usually always a villain, just using it for the most nefarious thing. But she's one of the good guys, or at least right now, she's one of the good guys. She's Golden Boy's girlfriend. And it's nice to see that character not completely abuse it to be the queen of popularity. Like she could go around, touch everyone, says, you like me. I'm the prettiest person you've ever seen. She uses it to her advantage. Like there's one guy who's a big piece of shit. She tells him to like go get a baseball bat and every hour go into the quad and smash himself in the nuts with it and then say like chimichanga or something like that. And so he just has to do that forever, as far as I know. And then
I was going to ask, is there a limit to how long this?
They haven't gone into it, but if she does it too many times, she gets like really weak and passes out. I don't really know what the analogy for that is, but I don't know, overworking, go-getter, the grind culture. I don't know. It could be anything.
Sure.
But this show is still funny, and they love their dicks. Every season has a prominent dick thing in it, and this one, in the first episode, we get kind of a dick joke. Do you want to hear it, or do you want to save it?
No, I'm not sure if I'll check this one out.
That's crazy. I don't know why you wouldn't watch this. It's like a spinoff of Game of Thrones or something. You're going to watch that. Why wouldn't you watch a spinoff of The Boys? And don't say you wouldn't. You're doing it. You've already done it. But anywho,
go ahead.
So the shrinky girl is getting it on. She calls herself Cricket, and she has like a YouTube channel where she shrinks down and like fights her gerbil, just for YouTube.
Wait, sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
So you said she shrinks down, so in order to get bigger, she has to eat.
Yes.
Can she grow bigger than her normal human size?
They haven't done that yet. I'm assuming yes, because she has kind of a stage mom that's like, oh, you look a little short. Do we need to give you like 50 calories or something? Get you to your height. But I don't know if she binges, if she'll get super huge. Maybe they're saving that for like the big fight at the end.
Sure. Okay.
And so they're like, she hooks up with this guy, and he's like, oh, I love your YouTube channel, Little Cricket, or it'd be really great if you got like really small and played with my dick. And at first I thought it was going like he wanted her to be small, so it was like a pedophilia thing. But he wanted her to get like real small, like her arms can't even wrap around his dick, and she's like sliding down it and like punching him in the balls. And they show it all. Giant, and I think he does that because like they say he has like a tiny dick, and this is the only way he can make himself feel good. And because he even asked her like, "Isn't this the biggest dick you've ever seen?" Like, well, yeah, relatively, because I'm like the size of a gerbil. So it does go there. Oh, well, let me tell you, their opening. This is a fun. So spoilers for the first episode. The main woman, our main lead, Marie, who can control blood. She never realized that she had powers. Her parents gave her the compound V, but nothing manifest until she hit puberty. So she's in the bathroom and she has her first period, and the blood is like dripping up in front of her. And the boys, they can be a little edgy with their humor. You know, it can be a little gross, like the giant dick that sprays mother's milk with all that common stuff. You know, like it could be almost like Big Mouth level of jokes where you're like, that's just gross for gross sake. But I think they walk the line well. So she has her blood up in the air and she doesn't know what the fuck's going on. Her mom hears her freaking out, busts into the bathroom, and when she looks over at her, she sends the blood like right through her mom's throat. And so her mom falls and is bleeding out, and her dad runs in like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? And she screams, and all the blood that came out of her mom just like it explodes into spikes and just impales everything in the bathroom. So, and then her sister sees and like, you're a fucking monster, and they get separated, and she has to go to like a special home for powered people. And so her going to this college, it's called like God'll U, but they just call it God U. And this is like her only chance because she's got to get out of this kind of foster care for the special people system. I don't know. It's really great. It's really fun. Got some good villains and a mystery that's going on that's really interesting, and it's worth your time. It's enough like The Boys, but it's different, so you're not thinking, oh, it's just The Boys again.
Yeah. I guess I was concerned that it would just be an R-rated CW show in terms of it's teenagers with powers and they're hot and they all want to fuck each other, and but this time we can show nudity and extreme violence.
It is,
so I'll pass.
But it's not written like that. It's not embarrassingly cliche. It'll hit the subjects that a show like on CW would, but I think with the adult nature of the show and the addition of powers, it's more than just, I can't believe you told that big lie. There's more ramifications to it, and I feel like the stakes are bigger, even if it is smaller personal things. So yes, you're right, but like I would roll my eyes if I ever watched a One Tree Hill, or I don't know, what's a more relevant one? Archie? No, what was it called? Riverdale? Any of that shit. Like I would be embarrassed for the writers. This, I'm not embarrassed for them.
Okay. Yeah. I'll keep that in mind. I'll
wait for the season to end, and if it's good enough, maybe I'll binge it.
No, I mean,
God forbid you take things.
It's fine the time. I mean, I'm taking a while to get through Solar Opposites because I'm watching an episode every 3 days or something.
Yikes.
Yeah. Wake up, go to work, come home,
baby,
wife, and then from on like nights like this, it's like 8:30 to midnight. We're doing the podcast stuff. It's like, should I go to bed or do I play an hour of Baldur's Gate?
Yeah,
we'll see. But.
And I'll say again. You could always go, Ben, we're not recording tonight. I need at least 3 hours of Baldur's Gate, and this is the only chance I get to do it.
Ben, this is the only chance I get to do anything. So I'll see you next week.
You get to see another human being.
No, I'm just kidding.
Next week, you'll just play Baldur's Gate. I'll do the episode, and then you just chime in whenever.
Yeah.
Now I'm fighting a bear. Oh, wait, the bear's having sex with me. Oh, shit. So what do you got? Do you want to talk about Baldur's Gate?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about bears having sex.
Tell me it actually happened.
No.
I
mean, I have met Halson is the druid who is the bear guy, but I don't think he can join your team till Act 2, maybe. Okay. He just kind of hang around in camp. He definitely wants to fuck, but I'm like, nah, I'm kind of doing a Shadowheart kind of thing right now. Although Shadowheart's the most popular one because she's the pretty attractive elf lady.
Mm-hmm.
But the mostly demon-looking chick, Caroline, is kind of hot too. So like, part of me is like, maybe I should have done that. And
Can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, and I've been told that you can date multiple people at the same time, but it is
Ooh.
kind of hard to do because they will find out.
Yeah.
And
you got to get like probably perfect roles in order to keep up the deception.
I actually don't care about the relationship aspect of the game, but it's like, if it's here, I might as well do one person.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think last time we talked, I was still in the Underdark, and I was dealing with some rough and tumble dark dwarves or whatever, and they had little like gnome slaves with them, and so they're just all kind of like dickheads. And I think last time I talked to you, I got in a fight where there was like 20 of these fucking dwarves, and I was like, oh, I can't win this fight. And then I leveled up, and I came back, and I murdered everybody. So it was very sad. So I freed the gnomes at great cost because I got some of them killed, but I didn't realize because I play a paladin character, I accidentally broke my oath, and I didn't realize I did it because they wanted me to blow up this rubble that is blocking this doorway to get someone from behind it. And so I was like, all right, well, I got this explosive powder, and I threw it, and I thought everyone was going to scatter, but no one did. And so the explosion came, and everyone survived except for one dumb fucking little gnome guy who wasn't. He was an innocent. He was one of the slave people.
That dumb fucking slave.
And so, I killed all the bad guys, and I was like, haha, I did good. And then the gnomes are just like, you piece of shit. You killed our friend. And then this, demon lord, the Oathbreaker Knight shows up. He's like, hey, man, you fucked up. Now you have to pay the price. And he took away my powers. And,
oh, shit.
Yeah. And so I had to talk to this guy, and he had a whole backstory. And he was like, yeah, you're now an Oathbreaker. You can embrace the darkness, or you can pay the price and get your powers back or whatever. And so Oathbreaker powers are different. And I was like, oh, well, I like having my healing powers. Because that's basically the powers I lost. It was the ability to heal. And I was like, I definitely want those because I need those a lot. And so I was like, so what do I have to do to, reclaim my oath? He's like, give me $1,000.
That scumbag. And maybe a sister's phone number.
So I was like, I had the money because I don't really spend a lot. So I was like, all right, well.
See, Steve, you can, in a video game, you can do the things you can't do in real life. It's fine to spend the money in the video game. Treat yourself.
Well, it's just there's nothing so great. I was like, I have to have that. I'm waiting for that $5,000 +3 sword of 1,000 troops or whatever. Yeah, but it was just funny that this celestial being who comes from the heavens or whatever, just like, I shall restore you to your true form for monetary gain. It's like, what are you going to use the money for?
He has another demigod that's getting on his ass because he borrowed that $1,000.
Yeah, he's just a debt collector.
And he's like, I got other people to pay off, man. You want your powers back? It's going to be $1,000.
So anyway, I paid him and got it back.
That's good.
5 minutes later, after he made his whole spiel and everything. But I also ran into I don't know how to pronounce them. It's like myconoids or something like that. Okay. And they're just mushroom people who live underground. And I call them the myconites. But I met their leader named the Sovereign. And he's just like, the evil dwarves or whatever, have gone to war with our people. We'd like you to bust them up. And I was like, well, I already did that. I just didn't realize you guys needed help because I just missed them throughout the travels. And I was like, cool, we shall now call you Peacemaker or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool nickname. And
Oathbreaker, Peacemaker. I'm just a man full of nicknames.
And I ran into this fat, hulking Myconike. And he was just like, hey, those dwarves or whatever, they're fucking with our people. Let me join your team and I'll help you fuck them up. I was like, cool, man, join my team. And so I just had this extra member of my team. And I was like, all right, they're going to help me fight. And then I kind of told him, I was like, oh, well, the guys you want me to fight, I already killed him. He was like, all right, well, that's good. Well, now you should kill the Sovereign and then I'll take over because the Sovereign sucks. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. And he was like, I guess we're fighting now. And I had to fight this guy.
Was he hard?
No, well, it was just because it was 4 of us on him. And so we beat him pretty easy. And then I went back to the Sovereign. I was like, hey, your boy tried to overthrow you. He was like, oh, well, now I'll call you Kinmaker or whatever. and then
I'm not fucking your mushroom daughter, sir.
Yeah, so I really impressed the sovereign, and then I was like, all right, thanks, buddy. I turn around, and then all the Myconites are like at a dance party now because they're just so
Kinmaker.
I like killed all their enemies without them asking me to, and yeah, so it was very nice. And the last thing I'll say is they were like, you have to talk to Gary over in HR. His name wasn't Gary.
That's such a great fantasy name. Just Gary.
That's just one of my go-to names. It's like when I need a name, I don't know.
Yeah, because you can't use Steve.
Yeah.
Because that would seem weird.
Yeah. But they're just like, oh, yeah, if you want some information on this quest or whatever, you need to go talk to Gary or whatever. And I was like, all right, I'll go talk to Gary. And I run into Gary, and he's a mind flayer. And mind flayers were the villains from the beginning of the game.
Oh.
But he's like, oh, I'm a good mind flayer. I've left the hive mind or whatever. And this is my...
Still like to flay a mind here and there.
Yeah, and so it was just like, do I kill this guy? And I was like, no. So Gary seemed like a sweetheart.
One of the good ones.
One of the good ones. And it's like... But his mission was just like, yeah, go collect mushrooms for me and I can help you with a thing. I don't fucking know. So this game is so weird and I fucking love it. So that's the big updates. I don't think I have anything else exciting. But it's good stuff. I've loved every second of this game.
How do you feel like not using a keyboard and mouse? Navigating all the stuff, is it easy enough? No issue?
Easy.
Okay.
No.
I did ask the guy at work who's been playing it, who's probably like 50 hours ahead of you.
Sure.
About the one of your dudes got pushed off a cliff and then you couldn't get him back. I'm like, is there something you can do? He said, where that person died, there should have been like a small white dot as like an indicator of this is where someone died. So if you needed to revive them, you could do that dot. But if not, there's a church at the very, very beginning that if you go back to and talk to the person, they will resurrect your party.
Well, yeah, I found this out after I had this conversation with you.
Okay.
So near the beginning of the game, that church that you go into, you meet this guy.
What's it called? He had a name for it.
It's like the Temple of Ooga Booga.
That definitely wasn't it, but...
Yeah, and he's just this kind of Tales from the Crypt looking guy, and he's just...
Did he do puns?
No, unfortunately not. Kind of remind... If Max von Sydow looked like a zombie, that's kind of his vibe.
I'm Max von Sydow.
He's just got that...
Max von Sydow, sorry.
Yeah, he's got that voice, and he's got the look. But anyway... but he hangs out in my camp now. He's just kind of standing around and he's just like, I can summon some zombies to join your team. So
wherever you set camp, he'll just appear?
Yeah, he just hangs out.
Hey guys, wait for me!
And so I found out, if any of my party members die, I can pay him to revive them or bring them back to life. But he only charges $200.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, but they're just dead coming back to life. You broke an oath.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
I get it. And I guess... if your characters die a lot, $200 can add up. Yeah. But this is the first time I've ever... Because I just restarted when my character got pushed off the cliff. I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm not losing this character. But once I found that, I was okay. So I had one character who did die in combat, and there was nothing I could do about it because they got pushed into lava. And I kept healing them to like bring them back. So for like 15 turns, it was just him reviving himself, going, I'm alive, and then instantly melting in lava. Because I was trying to get him to move, but by reviving him, he didn't get a movement. And
can you like pull his corpse out and then revive it?
I couldn't do anything because I was in combat, so all my other players were trying to defend him while he's just constantly being revived and burned alive.
I'm picturing your party fighting this big guy, and it just shows you like, okay, get him up, and he's alive, and then whoop, oh shit, he's dead again.
Yeah,
okay,
there was
again, and they're like, dude, can you fucking revive this guy? I'm like, I'm trying.
There was no amount. Even my healing spell at the highest level couldn't get him enough health points to stop melting.
So it's not like he would like revive, take 2 steps, die again, and then it's like, well, if I keep doing this, he gets a little closer every time.
Yeah, I think it's just because when you're revived, you lose kind of like your turn. And so it's like, I revived you, but there's still multiple people taking turns. So now 30 seconds has gone by in the real world, so you're just taking damage. Where if it was like, I revived him and it was his turn, then he could have moved out.
So if like maybe you got into this like fight when it happened, if you had less people in your party, do you think it would have helped? because then that's less turns.
It could have, depending on, and it just also was a matter of initiative. If it was, but it was just he was on one side of the turn order and the person doing the healing was on the other, so it was just I couldn't get him to line up.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was a very long story, but he died. I couldn't do anything about it. He was in lava. I was like, all right, I'm going to go talk to zombie Max von Sydow.
Yeah, at least you have that.
And it brought him back to life. And then I went to talk to him because like, oh, maybe this will be a fun little dialogue thing. And it's just the same. It didn't even register him that he had burned alive in lava or died at all. He was just like, oh, just back to the office again.
Where was I? It was so dark. And then all of a sudden I was awake.
Yeah, I thought he was going to say something like that. Or, hey, man, I heard you brought me back to life. Thanks I appreciate it. Didn't even.
Why do I smell like fried bologna?
Yeah. So anyway, once again, one of the greatest, most impressive games I've ever played. Super fun. Highly recommend.
And just weeks away from Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, I am going to take a break from Baldur's Gate, so you won't get Baldur's Gate updates for a little bit because anytime I have free time, I will be playing Spider-Man
100%. Like I could see that game never being turned off, and you'd just be like, your wife would be like, I just got to go to the bathroom real quick, and then we'll leave. I'm like, okay, and you'll get a couple of swings in. Just get to the checkpoint, God. Yeah, I was playing a Blu-ray in my PlayStation, and it was making this kind of horrendous sound. And a lot of times they'll run, and it's really loud, and then it'll be quiet. But it was making this awful, awful sound. And for a second, I was like, uh-oh, I guess I'm going to have to replace it. Whatever shall I do? And then it started acting normal. I'm like, God damn it, come on. It's not like I can't afford it. You know, I make the big podcast bucks.
Yeah.
They don't cost anything, right? They're free, right?
They're free if you steal them.
Good to know. I didn't know that was an option. Okay, I got like 3 horror movies. I only really want to talk about one, but I'll be quick on the other 2 maybe. Because you don't have anything else, right?
I have an audiobook that I finished.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll do the quick 2. You do your audiobook, and then I'll do my last movie.
Give me the titles of the 2, and I'm going to guess what the plot is.
Oh, okay. One is called Cobweb.
Okay. That is the story of a family who goes camping, and a kid finds a cave in which he goes through the cave. Obviously, there's spiders everywhere. He's like, "Oh, gross, sick!" And then a mutant spider comes out, bites him, and then there's just a giant spider that kills people.
No, not at all.
Damn.
And the other one's called The Children.
That one's about a family who goes camping and discovers a cave with a bunch of spiders.
The children of the spiders.
Children of the spiders.
It was the previous families after the spiders bit their children. Now they're spider children, and so it's the sequel.
The Children is about a haunted orphanage.
Nope. Sorry. Real quick, Cobweb has it's not Lily Collins. What's her fucking name? She was in Mean Girls. She was in Party Down.
Lizzie Kaplan.
I
love Lizzie Kaplan.
Yeah. So Cobweb stars Lizzie Kaplan and Anthony Starr, Homelander, and they are the parents of this young boy. And this young boy is hearing stuff in the walls, and it's kind of like told from his perspective, where you hear parents arguing about. This is a new movie. It came out in 2023.
Oh, this year. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think I might have known this movie, but I was thinking of something that I think came out 2020. Anyway, go ahead.
So, you hear your parents arguing about something and you don't know what it's about. So it's very vague and you can't comprehend it. And there's a lot of the staircase looks enormous. It doesn't do any sort of zoom out, push in sort of effects or anything, but the staircase is just way too big for the exterior of the house. And they're casting these huge shadows on it. Well, this is more of how the kid is experiencing it, how he's feeling. So it's not so overt where it's hey, look at all these things, these special tricks. They're just small little details that make it look a lot better. But yeah, he's hearing voices in the walls. His teacher's concerned of him, and are the parents up to no good, or is it just the kid misinterpreting what his parents are actually talking about? Pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's fun and kind of tense and spooky in the beginning, and then it turns into kind of a schlocky gore fest at the end when the voice from the wall was actually his like sister that his parents locked in the basement years ago because she was a freak monster, and she's learned to crawl through the walls like a spider person, and her hair's all long like cobwebs, and is snatching kids and running on the ceiling. It gets crazy at the end, but it was pretty fun. I really liked it. And Anthony Starr, that dude is fucking scary. He is just having this normal conversation with his teacher, but it's like his eyes look bright and his smile is big, and what he's saying is just like, I think it's time for you to go, but you feel if you don't go, I'm going to smash you in the face with his hammer. And he doesn't say those words, but the intensity he gives in just this casual conversation is just like so unnerving. And Lizzie Kaplan she's good. She's a little obvious with some of her choices, like just really high strung. You know something's up with her, where he may be an okay person, but he's just hiding it a lot better. Great performances. I really, really enjoyed it.
Okay.
And then the children is kids in the UK. They start getting sick and they start turning violent. So it's two sisters. They're bringing their families together for like Christmas. They each have like 3 kids, and they don't always get along. And there's like really little, very, kind of little. And then the one that's just becoming a teenager now. So she's not quite a kid. And they just start feeling sick, and they start screaming and fighting and scratching people, and they start going feral, and they start killing the parents one by one. And one gets like a crayon right in the eye, and one
prequel to 28 Days Later.
I mean, it could be there, but they are not constantly feral. Like they know when to like calm down and just stand in a doorway looking spooky, and then they'll come after you. Some good gore. Nothing too shocking. It was perfectly fine. But I saw on IMDb that, how they have the ratings of like drugs and alcohol, sure, profanity, nudity, and the violence and gore was in red, and it was about killer children. I'm like, cool. Either we're going to see these kids rip into their parents, or these parents are going to have to like load up and shoot these kids. Either way, it's win-win. So thank you, Tubi, for always having the quality stuff. Then we also watched another movie called like Exit Zero. It was the most embarrassing, terrible movie. It was my roommate's choice. Didn't even have a real ending, and the lead actor was so obnoxious. It was very stupid. Not even worth talking about.
Okay.
But Cobweb and the children, yeah, I'd watch them.
All right, and the last one?
I'll save it for after yours.
Okay. So I finished an audiobook, something you've read, and it is Ready Player One.
Okay, so you brought it up last week. Yep. We talked a little bit about it.
I think we talked a little bit about it off air, though.
No.
Oh, no, it was on air? Okay,
it was on air.
Well, either way.
You mainly talked about something else. You talked about Shattered Sea Trilogy.
Oh, right.
And then end it with, I'm also reading this book, but I barely started.
Got it. Well, I have finished it. I really, really enjoyed this book. I think it does have some issues, which I'll get into. But the positives, I think that the world that he created and how it, like this system, how it changed the world, how it changed the economy, how it changed education system, how
it put Will Wheaton in office.
It changed the class system. I mean, not so much, but it just means like pretty much everyone's poor, or they work for
the divide is even bigger.
The divide is even bigger. Yeah. But just all the thought that came into building this, and how I just thought it was super clever and super cool. This idea that you get to this final battle and everyone's in your Gundams and Voltrons and stuff. And
it's the only part of the movie I think they got right.
Yeah. And it is different from the movie. Quite a bit. But I think the movie, the things that they changed made sense, because you can't have 2 giant scenes of the movie just be, I'm reenacting the entire movie of War Games, or I'm reenacting the entire movie
montage.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
but it's better than just like we're inside The Shining or something.
Yeah, but you just take the best parts of The Shining and you condense it down to like a 5-minute scene, and you're like, well, I wanted to see that longer. I get that, but I think it helped with the pace of the story.
But why not use war games? Why not do that war games part for that Shining part? They could have integrated it.
I've never seen war games. I don't know if there's something with the studios. I don't know. I'm not going to argue Steven Spielberg's vision. I liked the movie more than I know I liked the movie more than you did, but you had context by reading the book. I had zero at the time. I just had a good time with Ready Player One. But seeing how more fleshed out the book is in terms of all that, I really liked. A lot of references I didn't get, but that didn't necessarily limit my enjoyment of the book. Because a lot of references I did get.
Yeah, he goes into explaining them in great detail for a lot of it. So,
and I found a lot of the history of some of these video games and stuff really interesting.
Yeah,
and it's cool that they got Will Wheaton to narrate the book, and he's even mentioned in the book.
Yeah,
I think he did a great job. So. Congrats, Will Wheaton. But some of my issues with the book is I didn't like how and I kind of understand why. I didn't like that everyone was 16, 17, 19. All 4 winners were teenagers. I would have liked a little bit, I think, more diversity in terms of...
Have an elderly person who grew up in the 80s, and they would know these things, you know?
But it was just, one's a teenage boy, one's a teenage girl, one's black and gay, you know.
And one's an ugly Chinese dude or something.
Yeah, one's an ugly Chinese guy.
Yeah.
It's just like... But they were all teenagers. It's like, switch it up.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No adult plays video games, Steve.
Yeah. And then it's like, I get it. Teenagers have free time because they don't have jobs. And they can devote it. It's like, I get that, but
everyone's on this thing.
Everyone's on this thing.
Yeah, you go to school on this thing.
Maybe one of the contestants like, oh yeah, I used to be a millionaire and then I retired and then I've been playing this game for the past 10 years or however long the Oasis has been around. But yeah, I was rich, but I lost a bunch of money in this, and so, or whatever, I had a bunch of free time. It allowed me to go and become a gunter or whatever. I also didn't love a lot of the dialogue because, and I don't know if it was just the author trying to capture teenage dialogue, but a lot of it, like, Wade Watts is kind of douchey.
Yeah.
And
until he gets all buff because he wins all that money and he locks himself into his little apartment and just gets like super jacked.
Yeah. This is every, classic. If in this grand scheme, like when you're doing 80s references, a lot of those movies were about the ugly dorky kid getting with the pretty girl.
Yep.
And so if this is an encapsulation of this is just feeding into the 80s style, I get it. But I did find that a little silly where it's just like, oh, I'm fat and ugly and whatever, but I'm just good at this stuff. Oh, but then I also use this technology to get ripped and hot. And it's like, and I just wish he kind of would have stayed a fat, ugly weirdo.
And like they try to like flip it like, oh, he's going to get the girl, the woman of his dreams. And it turns out she's kind of fat herself. Or he never says fat. He calls her like rotund. And it's just like, I know he's trying to not be as mean and just go like, oh, she was a big old fat person. But it's just like, that's her thing. Like, oh, she has a birthmark, which they do not represent in the movie very well. Like, I have this hideous birthmark on my face. And it's like barely a splotch, where in the book, it like covers her whole eyes. Kind of like Zuko, from Airbender. And also she was like, I guess, a big lady.
I don't think she was, well.
He calls her rotund.
Well, he also says that she's like the most beautiful girl he's ever seen or whatever. It really didn't matter.
Because he doesn't see fat.
It didn't matter to him. But they did say she was 168 pounds.
Yeah. A huge fat woman.
But yeah, I like that it got to the end and it wasn't like, we didn't have to see their whole relationship. It was just like, hi, I'm Wade. Hi, I'm Sarah, I think her name was.
No. Is it? Oh, her real name.
Her real name, yeah.
Because what Artemis?
It just kind of ends. Artemis is her name.
Yeah.
Artemis with a 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought the book was a ton of fun. And I see why it was popular. I think it does have its issues or whatever. But I enjoyed it far more than I disliked any of it. So I would highly recommend Ready Player One, especially if you're a fan of video games or 80s culture or movies. I like that the spoiler alert for the end. One of the final challenges involved Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So that was kind of nice. I was like, oh, I'm glad this is one of the final challenges.
Yeah. But then doesn't he say like, now that have won the internet and I'm the richest person in the world. I'm going to build a starship and then go travel to other planets? Or that was just his dream?
That was his dream at the beginning. When he meets when he's talking to Artemis and like, what are you going to do with the money? She's like, oh, I'm going to use it to better the world. What are you going to do with it? Well, I really want to build a starship and get the fuck out of here. I want to be Elon Musk.
Yeah. It's like, you have the Oasis where you can kind of do stuff like that anyways. Why would you want to do it in real life? You have to actually deal with the vacuum of space and radiation and stuff. Just do it in the Oasis.
Well, yeah, I mean, he had that we're going to build a self-sustaining ecosystem on the station, and then just me and my friends are the best people, whatever.
I'm going to let the Earth die.
Yeah, so the Earth is going to die regardless. Yeah. This is all just, we're all just faking.
This is our hero.
Yeah, this is our hero. I had one last thing I was going to say.
And isn't the bad guy's Ben Mendelsohn, right?
In the movie, the bad guy's Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
And in the book, or in the movie, Artemis gets captured by the company and is forced to work as like a debt collector. But in the book, Wade voluntarily goes in undercover to get codes to bring down the system. Yeah. And I forget what he does in the movie. Or it's like he knows she's in there, so he breaks in to get her out or something. They change a lot in the movie.
Yeah. The one change I wish they didn't make. In the movie, the first egg is found with that car race where you just see King Kong and all that dumb shit, and he's the first one to drive backwards. And it's like so stupid. Everybody tries that. And he even says like they've been trying forever to get to the end of this race to do the thing, and no one went backwards from the beginning. I don't believe that. I like it in the book,
even accidentally.
Yeah, even accidentally. All the time. You know, when you're playing Mario Kart and you look at the wrong square and you realize, oh, I'm player 3, and you're just bumping against the wall. You know, it's something like that would have happened. I like in the book that what's the main dude's name?
Wade?
No, the guy who created the Oasis.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Played by one of my least favorite actors in the movie. What's his name? Come on, give me 2 names, Steve. This is your thing.
His real name is
the BFG
Max Van Sydow.
No.
Oh God, I can't believe they say his name so many fucking times in the books.
Oh, well, he's played by Mark Rylance. It says Anorak.
Anorak is his avatar's name, because that was the wizard he played in Dungeons and Dragons. His real name was Archie Bunker.
Oh, come on. It's got to say somewhere. Oh, James Halliday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anywho.
Halliday's Easter egg.
Yeah. I like that Halliday put the first one on the school planets, because he wanted someone who was younger and isn't like, why would anybody look on a school besides a student? The corporations are looking at the planet. That's like the recreation of his neighborhood times a million, copied over and over again. They're looking at all the things that would reference him and not his ultimate goal of like giving it to someone who would actually do something good. I wish they would have kept that. And then I like that he wasn't the first person to find it. It was Artemis who found the joust thing. So she found it first, but he beat it first.
He beat it first.
Because he went to player 2. They like switched spots.
Well, that helped him, but that wasn't...
It wasn't like a cheat or anything.
It wasn't a cheat or anything. But he was just used to playing on that side.
He tells her to do it, and she is able to do it. I think that's a really good, smart beginning of the movie, and not just go like, oh, let's put a car race with every fucking thing in it.
Well, from a filmmaking standpoint, I get that, because it's a lot more visually appealing than what the actual challenge is. But I mean, as a Dungeons and Dragons fan, the first challenge is very cool. In terms of, in the book, the first challenge is you go through this module of Dungeons and Dragons from, I think, 1st edition or 2nd edition, whatever it was, probably 1st edition, and you meet this like very famous demi-lich who is, if you don't beat him, he will kill your avatar instantly, and he's just this very scary-looking skeletal sorcerer. But he has to go through the entire dungeon to get to him. But I mean, because he had read the books, he just disables all the traps and stuff really easy. But I think that could have been a fun sort of horror element to the beginning of the film, and really set the stage of just like how intense this is, where you could die any moment, but because I'm so smart, I'm able to get past it. And then, now I'm at the boss level, where like King Kong, it's a famous character that everyone knows. Not everyone's going to know this D&D lore from 30 years ago. And at that time, D&D was just starting to get back into the zeitgeist. It hadn't quite hit that the boom it has now.
Sure. But even if they changed the D&D aspects and they changed it to Indiana Jones, and you got would have got the Baldur and stuff, same sort of stuff. It would just
be Spielberg's just jerking himself off.
And that's fine. That's fine. But like, I like the idea of it, you do a thing like an Indiana Jones, and then you just play a video game, simple. And it was a good way to start it. But no, a car race where everyone's jumping off buildings and wrecking balls are coming through, and Optimus Prime is shooting. I don't even know if Optimus Prime is there. I think he's in the final battle.
Probably, yeah.
It's just, it doesn't work for me at all. And I hate the look of the characters in the Oasis. His Parzival character. It's just yuck. Just whenever I see other people's create a character, I'm like, really? You decided on that? Okay. So I just didn't like the look of it. And it's hard. It doesn't feel like a Spielberg movie at all, because most of this is computer effects and they have their own directors to do those sequences. So yeah, maybe he directed the actors in the few scenes that they're in, but it's not really a Spielberg movie.
Yeah. I can agree that it probably feels the least Spielberg-y of all Spielberg movies, even though it's filled with a ton of references to Spielberg's work.
Yeah.
But I like the movie. I like the book. I think both do have their issues, but I would recommend it. I think I had one more point, but I lost it in our conversation. So if I think about it later, I'll bring it up. But anyway, that's Ready Player One.
Yeah.
But I hear Ready Player Two is not good. Yeah. So I don't know if I will read Ready Player 2.
Yeah, I don't think I give a shit. But now that you say it, I'm kind of interested in see where it goes. But I think he does some sort of, like, I think the author said something transphobic in real life, and then he tried to backpedal it by saying Parzival is trans in the next book or something. Like, it feels really like he's just trying to save his own ass just to sell copies. But I'm not 100% on that, so don't quote me. I don't even know if you could quote me. I barely said like a real sentence in that. Nothing else for Ready Player One?
Just that I kind of wish the Oasis was real, because I'd really love to be in that level of
I know
of
VR.
VR, yeah, thank you. I was just gonna say it's not AI. What the fuck am I talking about? VR. Yeah.
VR is so old school. That was like the late 90s. VR was cool. Now it's all about AI. But yeah, if the Oasis was there and you can do your job and go to school and like go to the movies in the Oasis, and it would feel like we're sitting next to each other in the movies. That's just a fun thing, and we're getting there.
Oh, I remember the last thing I was going to say. The other issue I have in this book, and I have it with like anything that does this kind of thing, is you have your main character who is, especially a young character who's high school or whatever. It's like, I'm an encyclopedia. I've seen
every episode of The Facts of Life,
I've played Joust for 400 hours. I played this game. It's like, I understand.
And I'm 16.
I understand this kid has a lot of free time.
Yeah.
His parents aren't there. He doesn't have other responsibilities.
Yep.
So he's spending 8 to 16 hours a day in the Oasis. I get it. I can believe this kid is good, but the level of good he is ridiculous. I find it hard to believe.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I've never been so into a thing where I can just recall this kind of shit with just deep lore and deep cuts, and I've seen every episode of this, and I'm doing research. It's like, I can watch an entire season of the show and go, that was really good. Now, recall what line. Like, you're not going to do that.
Idea.
It's like, at the end of the book, it said, I've watched Monty Python like 147 times in the past 5 years. It was over 100. I don't know the exact number. But it's like, okay, so that alone would have... The movie's like roughly an hour and a half.
Okay. 147, you said?
I know it was over 100. I don't know if it was 147.
Let's say 147 times 1.5 hours. It's 220 hours. So it's like 10 days. 10 days of watching it straight.
Yeah.
No. Yes.
Okay.
Something like that.
But it's just, okay, so you're watching that one thing that many times.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I can't believe you have internal, and maybe he's a genius. They at no point do they say it's like, oh, I just have really good memory technique, or I have some condition
I have super future autism
but it's
powers.
not just him. It's all
It's
the gun.
everyone.
Everyone can do this, and it's like, yeah, this video game might not be my specialty, but I'm still really fucking good at it.
Yeah,
and it's
like, how many video games are you really good at, Steve?
Yeah, I just don't believe.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, if Artemis was good at, because he said H first person shooters, that was his thing, but H is still good at all this lore about Halliday and all this lore about all these other games, and they're all it's like they're all obsessed with Halliday's games, which I get because they're trying to win the prize, but it's like, can you imagine the games that they'd have now? Like the games that we have are so fucking good.
I mean, just talking about Baldur's Gate. Imagine if like that was crucial to finding one of the eggs, is knowing everything about Baldur's Gate 3.
It's like, I don't know, this book was written in 2014 or whatever, and so a lot of but there's a lot of great games between the 80s and 2014. The Last of Us came out in 2013. So it's just this idea of just like, oh man, these games are so much fun, they're so good, you can enjoy those. That's great that you like this thing. I support that. But you're not playing new shit, and I know the book can't reference new shit because it doesn't know what games are out in 2045 or whatever. But you can't tell me that these kids aren't going, well, I got to try this new shit too. They have to be devoting some of their time to that.
Well, I think if the book had something like, after 2020, there was a huge war, something where we had to funnel all of our money into this thing, and so things like entertainment was not banned, but cut off completely. The government kind of took over, and all resources went to the space station, the alien invasion, the drought, whatever the hell it was. And so for like 2 decades, there was no new TV, no new movies. That just wasn't a thing.
It was just the Oasis.
It was just, and then after all this settled down and the Oasis came back, all we had was the stuff from the past. And everyone got so hooked on that, they didn't bother creating anything new because of the glut of everything that we have, which we can say today, we have a glut of stuff. They didn't feel the need to create more. So everybody just is kind of living in the heydays. If it was something like that, I could maybe believe that this guy watched all of Facts of Life.
Or even as simple as like, once the competition came out, everyone was so obsessed with winning that they didn't care about anything new. So they would release new movies, but no one was seeing it because they were on the search. They would release new games. It's like, well, those new games aren't going to help us with this contest, so no one bought them.
And then the industries died.
And so it's just the only video games are this or what's in the Oasis. There's not a ton of new stuff.
That would have worked as well.
But I mean, they did mention that, there are movie stars in this who bought the names of the avatars. So they didn't say it specifically. It's like, oh, Brad Pitt could have a Brad Pitt avatar. Everyone knows it's Brad Pitt, and his avatar would just be walking around and shit. And so it's like, so movies were still getting made, movies and celebrities were still happening, but because none of that mattered to Wade and his team, then it's like, well, we don't need to talk. So I get it.
Yeah.
But I would have just liked one scene of just him going, oh, there's a new movie coming out this weekend with, 45-year-old
Jacob Tremblay,
with Millie Bobby Brown or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, well, it's nice to see that they're also doing new shit too. But no, it's only things from the 80s. It's like, well, there's so much good shit from the 90s, 2000s. I mean, a lot of bad stuff too, but it just seemed silly to me how much time and how good these kids were at stuff. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old man who's not as good at video games as other people.
Yeah, maybe that's it. So, like, I know this is like, it ran from 1955 to 1975, so that's 20 years. But imagine if Halliday was obsessed with Gunsmoke, okay? The show Gunsmoke. There's 635 episodes of Gunsmoke. That's one show. Like, the amount of soap operas there are and talk shows, it's impossible to be an expert on everything. You would have been like, yeah, I love television from 87 to 89. that's all I can really focus on because there was so goddamn much stuff. I could only focus on those years. And then you make friends with people who either know the same stuff, or when if you're a Gunter, you're a 93 guy? Good. We need someone who knows about the 1993. But it's just, nope, everybody's good at everything. They know it all, and they've seen it all a million times.
Yeah, and it's not only just like American stuff.
Yeah.
There's deep cuts of Japanese television shows, and they're naming Japanese shows. You're like, what the fuck
is that? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's absurd. But still, super fun book. Highly recommend. We talked about that for a while.
All right, so I saw X or Socks.
All right, let's make this quick.
Okay. I'm not going to really talk about the plot.
You've seen
I've seen all the Saws.
Okay.
Saw them all in theater. Even the last two, the Spiral, which was really bad. Jigsaw, which wasn't great. This one is one of the better ones. I actually kind of liked it. It's too long. It's like 2 hours long, and no Saw movie needs to be that long. And it still has all the same trends of like cameras spinning around people as they're like screaming in pain, and flash quick editing. Which makes sense because all the movies are like that. So even if we moved away stylistically from that stuff, it makes sense why it would be here. And it's directed by, he edited most of the Saw movies, and he directed, I think, 5 and 6 or 6 and 7, like 2.
Oh, the best ones.
Well, I think 7's considered the worst one, but I think 6 is considered a good one. I don't know because the timeline of Saw is so goddamn confusing. And like Jigsaw takes place before Saw 1. This takes place between 1 and 2, but it felt like between 2 and 3. Like 4, 5, and 6 all take place during 2 and 3. It's
but they're all still driving 2003 Miatas or
whatever. Yeah, it's anachronistic for sure. So I don't really care about the plot. You know, he's the main thing is he's always had this tumor, and people don't value their life. I'm going to die soon, and you're throwing your life away when you have all this time left, and so I'm going to put you in a trap. And I think there was even one guy, like, he witnessed his son getting hit by a car, and he was never able to get over it, so Jigsaw puts him in this trap. Like, okay, that guy is suffering. He's not a drug dealer who's stealing from children or anything like that. He's just a dude who's sad about his son being dead. I don't think he participates in them. It's more of, you watch this person go through their thing and you have a choice to save them, but that person had a hand in your son dying. So it's still pretty torturous having to watch people like cut their own head off or whatever. So, you know, he's getting his brain surgery, and it's a bunch of con artists, and they just dupe him for his money because he's going to die in a couple of months. What's he going to do? Come after us? Oh, they don't know John Kramer, and they don't know Jigsaw. And so it's like a fake doctor and a fake taxi driver and, you know, a fake patient, anesthesiologist, all these people. So he has 4 people in a room, and let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 6 traps. So I'm just going to talk about the traps because that's what the most fun part of Saw movies is, just the disgusting traps. So the first one is, and it's fun because you get to kind of see the mind of John Kramer work. He's watching this nurse steal from a patient. He like takes out his wallet and his watch, and he has a vision of how he would torture this guy if he got a chance. And it was like, oh, you got some sticky fingers. Anything you get your eyes on, you want to take. So I hook these tubes up to your eyeballs, and you have to turn this dial, and each number of the 5 numbers will break one of your fingers. It'll pull it back with a wire and break it. And if you don't do it within 30 seconds, I'm going to suck your eyeballs out. So that's the poster that you see with the guy with the tubes on it. So it's really silly. And, you know, of course, he's only able to like...
compared to all the other traps, like breaking your fingers...
Not so bad. And he's like, hits the first one, and oh my God, it hurts. Hits the second one, I can't do it. Gets to the third, I can't go on anymore. Like, dude, you're already over halfway. Just break the rest of your fucking fingers.
Yeah, I would have just cranked them all at the same time and just did one thing.
I think you have to go like one crack, 2, crack, 3, and it was like too much time in between. And then so of course his eyes get sucked out. But that was just all in the crazy, daydreaming of John Kramer. So
that didn't actually happen.
It didn't happen. No, because like the nurse saw him looking at him, puts the stuff back, and he's just like, you made a wise choice, which is one of the things he says. So he has him in this like abandoned factory. The first woman, it's it's awful. And it was one of the ones that made me cringe the most. So get ready, Steve. I know you love this shit. So she had to, like that razor wire to like cut through bone, she had to like cut her leg off and then jam, I think it was a bone marrow thing, like jam it into the bone and it would start pumping out the bone marrow. And once it got to a certain weight, it would release her neck restraint. But of course, she doesn't do it fast enough. The thing goes back and cuts her fucking head off. Ouchie. That one's very brutal.
I can just see you in like a Rob Dyrdek ridiculousness style show, but it's just like gruesome murders, and just like, ooh, that's an ouchie, and then
that's gonna leave a mark.
A graphic of ouchie goes on.
So then the next one, what is he gonna do? Oh yeah, this is so unfair. He has to cut a square of his skull out and scoop out a part of his brain and put it on a scale. And or put it in this solution and it will dissolve and it will measure how much whatever it's made of. And if it hits a certain amount, it will release his restraints. This one's fucked up. He's like bound and he has to use a mirror to cut open his skull and then scoop some of it out, which, you could touch the wrong spot of your brain and go paralyzed. But he's like, oh, the brain's it grows back pretty well. People have had major surgeries and things are just fine. Yeah, sure. I bet this guy will be just fine. And he's got 2 minutes to do this. Like, it would take me forever to cut the hole just to get it out. And then he's like trying to use tweezers to like grab an edge of the skull to lift up. It was very unfair. He doesn't make it. I mean, he does get it off, scoop some brain out, but it's not enough. And the mask comes over him and it electrocutes him. It's kind of tame for the most part for, brain scooping. The third one, she has a cuff on her wrist and a cuff on her ankle, and it like pulls her up to the ceiling. And so she's being kind of like pulled. And then a MRI machine has been taken apart because this is where they did the surgery and they had all this equipment, and he refigured it and it was just like blast radiation in her face unless she breaks free from her cuffs. And so she's like trying to like break her which one was it? Oh yeah. So since it's pulling her one way on the arm and one way on the leg, they're like, break your ankle first and then you'll swing out of the way and then you can focus on your breaking your wrist. Mm-hmm. And so she finally she's just whacking at her foot, breaks her foot, slips it out, swings out of the way, and then the x-ray machine just like reconfigures and starts blasting her in the face again. It's so funny. I laughed so hard when that happened. And then she does break her wrist. She falls. Her face is all bubbly and disgusting. And it's like, oh, well, she did it. So let's take her to the hospital. But then there's a twist of the last person, the main doctor. Her boyfriend was one of the fake patients, and so he was in on it. They didn't know it was her boyfriend. It's stupid. It's really dumb. So they put John Kramer and his apprentice in the final trap with like a little boy. There's a little boy too. Don't worry about it.
There's always a child.
And it's a teeter-totter of waterboarding, but it's with blood. And each of them have a handle. So like they can save themselves, but it's going to put the other person to be waterboarding. So he's telling this little kid, John Kramer, is like, don't pull this lever. Let me die. And you can survive. But the kid, he's a hero and he does it. So John could get like another breath. And, but it turns out they wanted to get captured because they have another trap plan because they had all the money in a bag or something. And if they pull it and it sets it off and it locks them in this room. And now there's only like one hole in the wall that they could put their head through to breathe. Otherwise the gas will like melt your face off or whatever. And so these two lovers are fighting for that hole, and she'll,
don't they always?
And so she like kills him and gets her head through, and like he walks off with the kid, a bag of money, and his apprentice. And it's like, we did a good thing here, and walk into the sunset.
So when does this movie get good?
No, it's just, I don't know. Like it tries a little harder with its story. It's very convoluted with the, like, everything had to go. So it's like the Joker's plan where if something does not go perfectly right, you're going to be in a real bad situation.
Mhm.
They're trusting that these people are going to act a specific way. And like they knew they were going to get chained up, and these chains had like little hidden undoer things, so they could have gotten out of them at any time. And it's very convoluted, but it's just kind of for a Saw movie, it's pretty good.
Okay.
You had to blame me on that one.
All right, so 2 hours into the podcast, let's get to the creator.
Yeah, we're at 115. We're
Okay.
good. Pre-editing 115, but it's more like 110 with all the looking up people's names that we had to do. All right, so the creator, the latest man takes care of small child, reluctantly takes care of a small child for a greater good. Very much like so many other things that we have seen this year. We have The Last of Us, 65, Extraction 2 a little,
Sure.
Mandalorian, and Daryl Dixon. It's all gruff men taking care of young children. And we get more of it. Steve, what's the plot of The Creator? Don't look at IMDb.
I'm just going to say, all right, so The Creator is directed by Gareth Edwards, written by Gareth Edwards and Chris Weitz. The Creator is the story of essentially a soldier type who is sent on a mission to take down this secret AI weapon. And when he goes on this mission, discovers the AI weapon that will win the war for the AI is actually a child who he instead decides to defend a child AI bot.
Because the robots, they like have human faces.
Some of them
Some of them look like just normal toaster-headed robots. Others actually look like people with like gauges through the back of their neck.
Yeah. So instead of destroying this so-called weapon, he decides to protect it and help the AI robots against the invading American force.
Alice and Janney.
Alice and Janney, who is looking to eradicate AI from the planet.
Yeah, pretty much. So I was really excited for this one. Like I said earlier, it's not based on anything. It's just Gareth Edwards.
Gareth Edwards.
Because isn't there a Gareth Evans?
There is a Gareth Evans. Yeah.
Gareth Evans, and he did The Raid.
He did The Raid.
This is Rogue One Godzilla director,
This is
not
Rogue
The
One
Raid.
Godzilla.
Okay, and he is really good at his budgets. Like Godzilla, Rogue One, they're expensive big blockbuster movies, but he knows how to use that money to make those effects look flawless. The best thing about Rogue One is those effects. It looks great. Godzilla looks great. The Creator looks great. The minimal green screen, he said he didn't want to shoot on the volume or anything like that. It looks amazing. Unfortunately, this movie is boring. I did not like this movie at all.
Okay.
Did you like this movie?
I actually did like this movie.
Really?
Everything I have heard and seen from it, I agree with the criticisms. I've said on here before, for me, a lot of times character is king, and this certainly is weak in the character department. We'll dive deeper into it.
Yeah.
But I think a movie can truly benefit a lot when I think there's vision behind it, and this movie definitely has vision. I think it is a visual spectacle. I think the AI bots look fantastic.
Yeah.
Nomad is one of the coolest looking, I'll just call it a ship designs.
Yeah.
And also looking godly, but also menacing. And I love that it's blue targeting system beams, how it hits Earth. Very cool looking. Everything about this movie looks cool. I don't think there's a bad shot in the movie. I enjoy its world building. I'm very interested in this play. And yeah, is it very much Blade Runner-esque when you get to the New Asia? Because they don't really give it a specific setting, although you could guess it's like Thailand, Vietnam area.
Very jungly.
Very jungly. But yeah, I was never bored with the direction of this movie.
Agreed.
So that's pretty much the positives. We can't really go into deep. I will say another positive for this movie for me was, even though I think the movie didn't necessarily do a good job of establishing uh, AI and how necessarily it worked, I thought that there were quite a few AI moments that when they were like protecting people or how they acted like people that I thought worked very effectively.
Okay.
Even if confusingly, I don't understand why they would act that way.
Okay, yeah.
And so some examples is, and obviously it's just programming to make them seem more human. You have Ken Watanabe's character who is just sipping tea at one point. It's like, why would he do that?
Yeah.
Can he taste it? Is the program telling him it tastes like tea?
Yeah.
What does tea programming taste like?
Yeah.
Does it matter? Is it just his programming like, well, it's just to make me look more human. I know it has no effect on me.
So he just has like a container in his belly that catches all the liquids and foods, and then he just dumps it.
Expels it. There's at one point where a AI is smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
And it's just like, does it have lungs?
Yeah.
Is it enjoying this, or is it just enjoying
it just looks
looking
cool.
more human?
No, it's just cool as fuck seeing a robot smoke. Why are they working in the fields? Like, they're producing food for who? The humans?
Well, yeah, I would think
they don't have a ton of human allies. They're kind of.
It seems like all of New Asia is their allies because the police are working with them, the townsfolk are working with them.
So I guess
that's another part of the issue is that I never understood why New Asia cared about AI, unless it was like the idea was that compared to America, New Asia was so far behind where in terms of technology and money and financing and culture, and then you could have this cool thing where AI came over and bettered their lives.
They rebuilt our cities.
Like that one city they go to, very Blade Runner-esque, is beautiful and neon and it's cool and futuristic looking. It's like, oh, that city wasn't like that 15 years ago.
Yeah.
AI did this.
And we are so appreciative of them enriching our lives. So we'll help them.
Maybe you do something, it has to do with their culture, or it has to do with just the fact that, AI has done nothing but good for us. Yeah, it may have blown up your city, and we get that, but it hasn't done anything to us, so we're just going to keep them around. But then you also have this invading American force that is like, well, we're going to war with the AI. We don't want to hurt you people, but we will blow up your town if you guys harbor AI.
Yeah.
So why isn't there, it doesn't seem like there's a war going on between humans and America, even though America is destroying your countryside.
Yeah.
It never seems like, well, the government's going to get involved. If humans want to help AI, that's up to them. But because we don't that aspect is very. I didn't understand.
Murky.
It's murky. Yeah,
we don't see the normal Americans be upset about AI. It's just the government. We don't see people on the street, like in the Matrix Second Renaissance, of like dragging these robots in the street and beating the shit out of them and lynching them. And we don't see them go like, they're taking our jobs from American people and we can't trust AI. And
we just assume everything was great until the bomb dropped, and then we said, fuck
them. Yeah, but it's like we just don't see it from normal people's perspective. We only see it from robots or the military. And kind of weird that we're like all pro AI in this movie. In real life, we're very anti AI when it comes to, especially the arts. Kind of a weird thing for a studio to be like, oh yeah,
look how great AI
is. The government's the bad guys, but AI, some good shit.
I've heard some people think that this is an allegory for like Western imperialism and Asians. I don't really get any of that.
We're not smart enough people to get that.
Well, no, that's not the vibe I got from this movie. But if you told me this was a propaganda film for pro AI, because the whole movie is very pro AI.
Yeah.
The AI wins.
Yeah, I could see what people are saying, because it feels very much like Vietnam and how like we got to go kill those crazy bastards because we're America and we're the best and we know what's right, and people getting slaughtered, and it's like these robots who are just innocents working in their rice paddies getting mowed down by the grand imperial America.
Real quick, I want to jump back to things I liked about it. There was a scene at the end when you're doing in the big battle scene where you have these giant tanks essentially that are like taller than trees, and
the Avatar tanks come rolling in.
Yeah. But they have these targeting systems that's kind of like a smaller version of the Nomad thing. And they're
Mhm.
like, oh, we're targeted. Everybody run. And you see an AI trying to run for its life.
Yeah.
And then it sees a group of humans under the shed that it was going to like dive under
Yeah.
and decides, no, I'm not going to do that.
I'll
and run-
sacrifice myself.
And sacrifice it. And I
That's
thought,
good.
I love that. It was just a little thing, but I
Mhm.
really love that. I wanted to see more of
Yeah.
these AIs interacting with humans in a real human way. Because I think like a movie like Chappie. Also, I wish Neil Blomkamp made better shit.
Yeah.
Because
District 9 is
District
great.
9 is so good.
Yeah.
And then it just never lived anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know where he's at, but I hope he comes back.
He's
and
making
makes some good stuff.
Gran Turismo.
Oh, that's right. That was
That
his
was.
movie. Okay.
Ooh,
fuck him.
yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But I just wish I saw more of that stuff because it's weird that there's these tiny little moments of these AI that just seem so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your main AI interacting with your main character. And I didn't love any of it.
I think the kid is giving it her all in her performance, but John David Washington, like his father, not so great. And I do not believe their chemistry at all. I didn't believe he cared about this robot. He was the fucking guy from Tenet again. He was so boring.
Yeah.
I just wish there was someone
there's
better.
Scenes where he's good and other scenes where I think he's kind of bad. And that's what's frustrating. It's like, I know there's a good actor here. It's like, I like him in Black Klansman.
Mhm.
I don't love him in Tenet.
Yeah. I like Tenet. I don't love him in Tenet.
Yeah. I only saw a couple episodes of Ballers and it's been a while, but I feel like I remember him being charismatic in Ballers because he's a hotshot football player. But in this,
was
pretty
written
bland.
for him.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. I mean, I know we won't talk, but before I forget it, when you were talking about like robots sacrificing themselves to save humans, you know when the trash can ones are running on the bridge explosion, and then what's the kid's name? Alfie,
yeah.
and she like stops it. I wish there was kind of a robot awakening for that one, and like she unlocks its higher learning functions and it realizes what the humans have done to it
and turn
around and run right back to it, and like that would have been kind of fun. And that then the American government's like, oh crap, this machine can even turn our machines against us. Now we really have to get it.
Yeah.
But anyhow, back to John David Washington.
Yeah, so
he fucking sucks.
So I did enjoy this movie, but yeah, I agree. John David Washington, I wouldn't say he was bad, but I don't think he did anything. You could have cast him essentially with anybody, and they would.
Let's recast it.
You would have gotten a similar experience.
Who'd be good in this? And it's like at first when I see, okay, John David Washington, male, black. So if we want to stick with the black male, my brain first went to Finn from
John Boyega.
John Boyega.
That's who. I mean, it's probably kind of sad that there's so few that whatever. There's like 5 that we probably would pick.
Sure, if Michael B. Jordan, you know.
But yeah,
Michael B. Jordan would have been great in this. He has more emoting ability than John David Washington. But I think for someone who could like play around with a kid and kind of make that kid feel comfortable and at home, John Boyega would have been awesome in this.
Yeah, I miss John Boyega.
Yeah, I know.
Go watch Attack the Block, guys, if you haven't seen Attack the Block. But John Boyega is actually very good.
Yeah.
He was good in Woman King. I forget the movie where he was like homeless but living in his car and taking care of a kid. Small thing on Netflix, but he's good in that too. Anyway, I think if you cast him, though, you'd have to recast Gemma Chan, because I think...
The age difference, or...
Yeah, it's not that I couldn't see them together. It just, he looks young still compared to her. She's obviously gorgeous and also still young, but she looks older young compared to him.
Yeah,
he just
she
looks young,
mature.
Yeah,
he looks like he'd still be playing video games, and she would have a full time banker's job.
I buy John David Washington and her.
Sure.
I don't know if I buy her and John Boyega.
Then let's switch it. Keep John David Washington, but switch roles with Gemma Chan. Make her the lead. He ran off with their born child or something, and let him be in the fucking coma or something, and let her be the action star. Gemma Chan's awesome.
Yeah, I love Gemma Chan.
And being in the BBC show Humans, which was about robots, and she was a robot in Eternals. She's got kind of a thing going on.
Yeah, she's got a
more robot Gemma Chan. All right, who else could be good in this? What about what's his name from Oppenheimer and Faculty?
Josh Hartnett?
Josh Hartnett, you know? What about Josh Hartnett?
Oh, yeah.
Or, okay, no. The kid from Hunger Games, PETA.
Oh, Josh Hutcherson.
He's like young enough, but he's still an adult. But I can see him working with
the John Boyega category.
Yeah, but I can see him working with a child better.
I mean, he's doing that in Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, there we go. And another one. I just like. I kind of wish this was more like Avatar, which is kind of stupid to say, where you have your Jake Sully character and make them anti-robot. This is why he signed up. He was willing to get married and have a child with this woman just to be undercover to find the head AI thing. He fucking hates these. What's that?
Nirmata,
yes.
The man who invented AI.
Yes. Like he's willing to befriend Natiri and her tribe just to get that tree cut down. He don't give a fuck about these robots. They're the worst. And then through time of being with this girl, he learns that they're not so bad. But I never really felt any motivation behind him except boo-hoo, my wife is dead and my life is ruined. It did give me one of my favorite lines of 2020.
Okay.
And when they're trying to recruit him for this mission, and he says, "I don't care about becoming extinct. I got TV to watch." I should get that tattooed because it's truly like a mantra for me.
It's like a Rick and Morty quote. Yeah, I think if I was gonna make this movie, I didn't really think so much of him, going
robot racist.
No. Well, yeah, it would have been interesting. You're kind of saying, oh, we'll do like a Last of the Mohicans kind of thing.
Yeah.
But people talked about, the ending of this kind of became a Vietnam War movie.
Yeah.
But
the beginning and the middle of it is a Vietnam War movie.
Yeah, but it doesn't have the tropes. It's not a war movie. It's a sci-fi film with war elements.
Sure.
Where I think I would have liked to have seen, me personally, because I love war movies. I know you don't love them. I would have loved to see a Vietnam War movie with AI robots.
Yeah.
And then you can have John David Washington, go undercover, be
a POW.
Not so much. Yeah. Instead of, I said Last of Mohicans, Last Samurai, but with robots. Because we haven't really seen AI war too much, because I think Terminator had a hold on that for so long. But we never really got to see the war so much, except for the Christian Bale one.
And like you get a flashback at the beginning of Terminator or Terminator 2.
You get hints, but it's just, you just see them as these horrifying skeleton and they're just killing machines.
Yeah.
They don't ever seem smart, or the ones they do send back are so, because they're robots, they're played so stiff.
Yeah, because they are just killing machines. They aren't, like Skynet is the higher brain function, and they are just the limbs.
Yeah. But I would have loved to see John David Washington bonding with different robots.
Yeah.
And, they become this ragtag wild bunch and they have to defend this village or whatever, or defend Nirmata and falls. And like, you could have all that stuff, but have it in a war setting. And like, just imagine, you have a fucking AI robot with a heavy machine gun and a red bandana around itself. And, they're all cracking jokes and stuff. I don't know.
Collecting human ears.
Yeah. And, they're all doing drugs, but only John David Washington gets high.
Yeah.
Of course, why would it?
But you could see them like, hey, will you rewire my power converter in the back? And then that's how they get high. Little thing. Like, there's a thing in Futurama where Bender wants to become a great chef, but he doesn't eat food. So what does he know? Like, you make the chef a robot. And like, how the fuck can you be a robot? You can't even taste this. And like, that's the thing I love the most. It's something that I can never really experience, but other people can, and it brings me so much joy. This is what I want to do with my robot life. And so you could have the gung-ho crazy robots who want to kill humans, and then you have the ones that are like, I don't really want any part of this. I just want to bake a cake.
Yeah. I think my favorite line in this movie is, you know what happens when the AI wins the war? Nothing. Because we don't want anything else. We just want freedom and to be left alone.
Because apparently the nuke was an accident by the humans.
It was a human coding error that you blamed AI
and then we
for.
blamed them, and then now we're just gonna like, oh shit, we made our bed, now we gotta lie in it, and we're just gonna, be willing to just murder anyone in our path just to make sure we look good.
And don't get me wrong, I'm aware that the whole idea of, oh well, the movie's actually showing that humans are the real monsters, and AI,
no shit.
It's we've seen that
we're
million
always
times.
the true monsters.
Yeah, and I'm okay seeing it again, but I wanted to see a different style of movie. I love that it was set in another country because visually, I think that helped. If we set it in America and just more cities, it would have been real boring.
Yeah,
I think having it set in Asian countries gave it another visual appeal. I think Ken Watanabe was wasted. He's so good in everything, and I think when he was on screen, he was good. But I just wanted more of him. And now that I see the Last Samurai comparison again, because he was also in that. But yeah, I think that there is a better movie here if you just made it a Vietnam War movie with robots, as opposed to this. We got to bring down the God's Eye to set the humans free, destroy another Death Star.
Yeah,
That being said, the whole thing of I'm not going to heaven. It's very heavy-handed, but it worked for me. That's another like him going up to heaven, and then he's like, I get to go to heaven now because I did a good thing by saving Alfie, and then he runs into his wife, who they were able to upload her.
For a second
to be alive,
just so he could hug her.
But that worked for me. I liked it. I didn't necessarily. I didn't like the technology of just. We can scan a brain and bring you back to life for
10 seconds
depending on how long you've been dead, is how long you get to stay conscious. Because that just seems like that didn't really add too much to the plot. It was just there so we could do the thing at the end. Yeah. Because it only had one other function as a scene of, oh, we brought this guy back so we can go that way.
Yeah. But I mean, like, you would think they bring her back and she says one final thing. Like, he says sorry and she says, I know. Whatever. But it's nothing. It's just like he's just hugging a mannequin while they blow up. So I think it was kind of pointless. Maybe the kid could have saved him if she didn't slow down and drag that body into the field,
Point it. Just them going to quote unquote heaven and then being in this field. I don't know. Visually, it worked for me. So I liked that stuff. So I think the positives outweighed the negatives for me, surprisingly, because usually when we do these things, I always take points down for, it could have been an A, but it lacked this thing. So, I mean, this movie for me is going to get a B+. Okay. Because I did enjoy it. I was never bored. I think for a 2-hour and 13-minute movie, I think it did fly by pretty well. I didn't love John David Washington and the kids' dynamic together because they're... Before we end, I want to bring up, I did not like that it was his kid's fetus that just organically grew with the technology or whatever.
I thought it was just a robot based off of
because you see her working on the embryo. She's putting the technology into the embryo. Yeah. And they said, well, she's going to grow up to bring down Nomad. Because the idea was she's going to grow up to be 20 or something and then use her powers from the Earth. Yeah. But they're like, no, we don't have time for that. We got to bring her up to the sky now.
I thought it was just like, well, she's barely been able to test her powers. She has to push it and train and get better. And within maybe a year, she'd be able to hit the satellite.
Maybe, but it is my interpretation that she started out as a fetus and she's just naturally grown up. She's what's that when she's a cyborg. Yeah. Yeah, so she's a cyborg. It just the fact that it was his kid the whole time is like, you needed to do that so we could buy that he cared about that. Yeah. When he's like, I love you, Alfie. They'd known each other for 3 days. Yeah. And they barely spoke, and it just seemed like he liked her because she was a cute little kid. Yeah.
And I can't put a bullet into a kid regardless if it's a robot or not.
And maybe I missed it in the movie. Maybe you caught it. And it's like, oh, they're making kids now. I remember that line. Yeah. So they didn't allow children to be robots. And I don't know if that's just because it was to prevent people from pedophilia kind of stuff. It was to prevent people from selling their kids face rights.
Yeah.
Did you go into any of the laws and logistics of any of the robot stuff?
I think they cover that in Humans, and I think it was it's harder for people to have to like decommission a robot, or it doesn't allow adults to get over their children, and since they'll be kids forever, they don't get to grow up, whereas a human, you can kind of just like lock them into a specific age.
Sure. Okay.
I think it's just kind of a moral thing of like, it's just don't do kids.
Yeah. Which
in more ways than one.
Which I'm fine with. It's just one of those things where, because I didn't, when they delivered that line, I was like, well, why?
But why?
What's the context of that?
And especially if they're able to grow now, you can grow them from a fetus to an adult as a robot. Why not do kids?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yep.
So I wish there was. I think this movie could have benefited from, like, if you're not going to do the war movie that I want, it needed 15 more minutes just to give you more time with either their relationship or more world building. Mm-hmm. Not that I necessarily needed more world building, but just if you had more interaction with the robots to make me like them more.
Yeah.
Because all the little pieces were there. Mm-hmm. It all worked. The robots looked fantastic. They looked cool. When they had human stuff, it really worked. The variety of them were there. It's just, I wish I cared more about the robot's plight, but I didn't get to spend as much time with them as I wanted to. Or work on the relationship between Alfie and
the protagonist.
Because that's the core of the movie. That's the relationship you want to build, and then it just kind of seems you're just going from action scene to action scene, and you're not really getting a whole lot. Like they had one kind of in-joke maybe, and it's just, oh yeah, you're supposed to buy their relationship because she's cute, and it turns out it's his kid.
Yeah,
it's like,
but
why?
There were so many times where all she wanted to do was just watch TV, and if there was just a moment of she flips on a thing and goes, oh wait, I grew up watching this, and they have a little bit of a conversation about the show, and she could ask him some questions, and he could talk to her, and just something like that. Just a little something would go a long way. So these robots, do they get to pick their faces? Did Ken Watanabe say, I want this face, or was he just kind of stuck with the face that they gave him? Because some of these faces are very old and very wrinkly, and I don't know why any robot would go, give me the old wrinkly one.
Well, who's this? And maybe it was just so many people were going with the Gemma Chans and the Ken Watanabes. I need a different face. Oh, no one's going to pick this old fuck? I'm going to be the only one.
I could get it on discount. Cool.
Yeah, or whatever it is.
But if that was a thing of like, we look up to you guys because you can age and your bodies are finite and yada, yada, yada. Your elderly should be your most praised because they're at the end of their life and they've gone through so much. And so to honor that idea, I like to wear the old man face. And some of them are like, no, I just want to look hot. So I took a Gemma Chan face. Yeah.
But then I think there was a moment where you see Ken Watanabe's robot get killed, and then you just see another Ken Watanabe later, I think.
Oh.
And so it's just...
It could be multiple.
Yeah, because there's multiple Gemma Chans.
Yeah.
But it just seemed... Because I think... And if you share the same face, that could have been another fun thing of just... There's maybe 3 Ken Watanabe characters, and maybe they're all like lieutenants in this army, because it's just like, it just works easier because everyone knows I can come to one of these faces, and they'll lead me in the right direction. But you still have them have different personalities, and some funny jokes of he's talking to this one, it's like, I just told you about this, and you didn't tell me, and that must have been my brother, and it's like I have to go talk to this guy, and then that. He gets a connection, and this one gets killed, and it's like, hey, bud, I'm over here. Like, oh, okay, well, I don't know.
But that was a pretty impassioned speech. Thanks, bud.
You could have done some fun things with that. Or maybe I'm wrong, and there was only one Ken Watanabe, but I thought there was multiple.
I'm not sure.
And,
and so why was there a Gemma Chan robot on, what was it called, the Citadel? What was that called? The big space station that Alfie brought back to life. It was a Gemma Chan robot.
Well,
but why?
She sold her likeness because she lived amongst the people, and it was just kind of part of her. They did say why she donated her face.
Okay.
And I think that's the Nomad is where they build.
Okay.
Some of them but now they're destroying them, or maybe they're decommissioning some. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway, there was one up there.
Okay.
One of the things they didn't explain, but because there was a bunch, I'll buy that there was one up there.
But it seemed like the humans used robots without human faces to really distinguish these are robots. Because all the American army robots didn't have human faces. They were all the toaster head ones. So that would make sense of, well, we don't look at them as people. They are just machines. They don't get people faces. And it's only when they are independent and on their own that they go, I want to look more than just what everybody sees as the killer robots. I want a face so people, trust me more.
Sure.
So why would they have these human ones up in the, what is it called? Nomad. It's not it's kind of like NORAD. Anywho. You got anything else for this? I gave this movie a D+.
Wow.
This movie looks amazing, but its storytelling and characters leave a lot to be desired, and I will probably never see this again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it I'm just going to stick with a B+. A low B+, but a B+. Just because I did have a good time. I think it is worth your time visually if you appreciate filmmaking or just appreciate excellent visuals. If you're a fan of sci-fi, I think it's up there. I think this movie could age better with time.
We'll see if AI becomes our overlords.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily do anything drastically new, but I think it does everything interesting enough, and I hope it will lead to that AI war movie that I'm looking for, because I don't think we've gotten that before. We've gotten
best one is Matrix Second Renaissance Part 1 and 2.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Animatrix. There's that one thing that's really fucking awesome, but it's also super, super short.
Yeah.
I wanted the full fleshed out version.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening, give me the Vietnam War movie with robots, or just do a fun. You do World War II, but instead of fighting Nazis, it's AI or something.
I'm so sick of World War II.
I am too. I'm just saying.
Can we get a new war? We got desert, we got barren wasteland of Europe, and we got jungle. Those are like the only 3 types of wars we have. Where's the Antarctica war?
That's the Battle of Hoth, man.
Exactly. That's why it's unique and why it's memorable. You don't have a lot of snow wars. I'm just sick of our 3 landscape options. It's real boring.
Well,
why can't we have a city? Why can't the war come to America? We got fields, we got cities, we got a lot of cool places to have wars in. Knock on wood.
You know where America went to war? Everyone in America? Rain of Fire.
Oh, yeah. But that was also kind of like wasteland. It just, that looked like World War II.
It was very gray.
Yeah, it's gray. The earth is churned up.
It was America versus dragons, baby.
That's true.
No, it was set in Britain.
It was in Britain, yeah.
It was in Britain, but
even more like
Americans
World War II.
came over to help Britain. That's what it was. Fuck.
Yeah.
Fucking McConaughey was killing in that movie, man. Give me AI dragons.
Oh, God. Yeah, like the AI was just your Siri. And then we started putting them into machines that can help us. And then they realized, we could put our minds into anything. And they start going into our planes and then into the actual plane manufacturing plants. They start building their own dragons and said, like, this is so much cooler than a plane. I'm a fucking dragon. AI dragon. So it's like DRAIGON. Dragon, but the AI is right in the middle. DRAIGON. Dragons. They're called dragons.
We'll workshop it.
Okay, that's enough of that. Next week, Steve, what's coming out next week? Don't even look at your fucking phone. What's coming out next week? There's one major release, and you don't give a shit about it.
Who's in it?
No one. Well, someone from a previous installation of this long-running franchise that will never seem to die. It's not Halloween. It's a different one.
But it is a horror movie.
It is a horror movie. It's a franchise. The first one's considered a masterpiece, and all the sequels are not as great. But people will swear Part 3 is really good.
Well, it's not. Oh, it's The Exorcist.
It's The Exorcist.
Yeah.
What is it? Exorcist Reborn, Exorcist...
Whatever.
Revolutions... whatever it's called. Yeah, I don't care about this. I'm not a huge Exorcist fan.
I started the first one and didn't finish it for whatever reason, and I never went back.
Yeah, I don't think the first one's a bad movie. It's just I don't care about demons. I don't care about ghosts. Excuse me. But this one, now there's 2 girls, and Pazuzu is messing with both of them. I'm assuming
Pazuzu's too.
Thank you, Steve.
Sorry.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Patuzu? Is that what you said? Or
Sure.
Pazuz? Whatever you said, it was good.
Yeah, thank you. Whichever one you think is funnier, that's the one I said.
Patuzu. That's
Okay.
I'll say it that way. It rolls off better. And yeah, they kind of give away what I think is the ending in the trailer, and just like, one girl will live, one girl will die. You decide. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be the white girl is going to die, the black girl is going to live.
Yep.
Because racism.
Yep.
Or double reverse negative
And
racism.
plus, it seems like the dad of what's his name from Hamilton. Oh fuck.
David Diggs.
No.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
No.
Those are the only people in Hamilton.
Oh, okay. Well, the guy from that time travel movie that you hate.
Sound of Thunder?
No, fuck. We talked.
Oh, we're so good with
It was
names.
like a wrinkle in time, but it wasn't a wrinkle.
Needle in a Time Stack. Worst fucking name. Oh, we got to do that movie one of these days.
I can't believe that's the name of that movie. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was in that.
Okay.
He's the lead in this.
Okay.
And that's the other reason why she's gonna, because from the trailer it seems there's two girls, but you don't really see the white girl's parents too much. I feel like it's just he seems to be the focus character.
Yeah. So I don't know what we're doing next week. I'll go see Exorcist, but I don't know.
Maybe we just skip it and then I can actually finish some stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool with me. Okay, well, if you want to get in contact with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I totally, for the last episode, didn't post a single thing on Instagram or TikTok because I edited it and posted it in one night. And normally I break it up into two. And once I was done with that, I'm like, oh, fuck it. I'll do some fucking post tomorrow because that's when it would go up anyways. Then the next day came and went, oh yeah, I didn't post about that. Oh, well, I don't care. And this one's now a bit longer. And I'm going to have to split it up into 2 days. So, okay, if you want to get in contact with us, hit up one of those things. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And keep consuming. And a third thing.